Okay, so what we're looking at here is a panel change we did at a condo in Springfield. It's a building was built in 1958, and a lot of the stuff hasn't been upgraded since then. And of course, before they were condos, they were apartments, so they were rentals. So usually in that case, nothing ever gets done there. So the lady's going to be adding a few appliances in the kitchen, a washer and dryer, stackable unit, and a microwave. And we're also going to be going back to change a bunch of receptacles and switches. But we wanted to get started by changing out this panel. And as you can see in the video, once I got started, I realized that there was a feeder coming from the basement going up to the second floor above where I'm working here. And of course, I wasn't going to be able to fit the enclosure in the space between the stud base because of that cable that was in the way that you see on the far right there in the framing. So what I had to do was I had to run out and get some lumber and basically do what you see on the video here is basically just framing a wall, putting in a header to pick up that load from that stud to make room for the new electrical panel. And so that's what took me definitely took me a few hours because it's definitely not my expertise. But I had to do this to get this job done. And once you start taking the wires out of the panel and get going on it, you really can't go in reverse at that point. So I rolled with the punches and framed out a header and picked up the load and just got back to doing the electrical stuff. It was kind of a pain in the neck to do this one because, as you can see, there's several wires all over the place here. The wire on the left right there, you see, that's for a three-way switch, and that was in the bay to the left of where the panel originally was. So even if I wanted to just move that panel over to the next bay, I couldn't do it because there's not only wiring in the way, but also a switch box in the way. So this was really the only alternative we could take as far as getting this one done. So as you can see here, once I did that, I had to carefully calculate for where the wires are going to come back into the panel. As you can see here, there's wires on the bottom and on the top. And so even though the enclosure is a little bit bigger, the wires can fit in there a little easier. I still had to do proper planning to make sure that all the wires will get inside the panel. Here's the condo that I'm working at in Springfield. This is the outside. Most of the snow's melted now, and this is my truck where all my supplies come from that I keep loaded and have on hand for whatever I need to have done. So there I am with my truck, and now I'm coming back, and as you can see, I got the panel mounted, and all the wires, all the cables are inside the panel box. And what you see I'm doing here is I'm terminating a ground rod, not a ground rod, but a ground bar to facilitate the equipment ground on this system. This is a sub panel. The main disconnect is actually down in the basement, as it should be. They need to be grouped, and that's where they are. So there's a main breaker in the basement, and then there's a sub panel in each of the different apartments that have the mains down in the basement. So when you do that, your neutrals and your grounds need to be isolated, so you don't have what's known as objectionable current flow on your equipment grounding conductor. That's a chapter. That's for another video. We'll save that explanation. So here we are. I don't know what I did with the video here, but I did not record myself putting the circuit breakers in. But the circuit breakers are in now, and all the wires have been terminated. And I'm going over here to the main breaker for that apartment and turning it on before I go upstairs. And there's a good look at all the mains feeding the apartments in that building with the main disconnect on the far right there. So here I am testing, make sure we got the proper voltage. Should have a 120 volts to ground on each leg, and of course 240 volts across the legs, and that's what I'm testing for here. Once I know I've got that, I stand away from the circuit breakers and turn them on. I'm a good electrician, but even I make mistakes, so you want to stand away when you turn those breakers on to avoid any kind of arc flash. So there I am, all the power's back on. Here's the panel cover with the labels in place. And I just gotta take those knockouts out and mount the panel cover on here. That's what I'm doing there. And then of course the inner the inner piece right there, I'm tightening that up so that the space between that plate and the breakers are even. So thanks for watching this video. We'll see you next time.